TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom ve'erev tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin, broadcast from Jerusalem. U.S. President Donald Trump announces that negotiations with Iran have taken too long and that now they will have to pay the price. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian claims that any military campaign against Iran would not realize the Ayatollah Regime's surrender. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan warns Israel that its military engagements in Lebanon and Syria are regarded as a direct threat to Turkey. An extremely fragile ceasefire remains intact despite a clear tick-up in the number of violations by the Ayatollah regime in Iran and its regional proxies, drawing retaliatory strikes by both the United States and Israel. The latest exchange of blows took place overnight that, after reports initially merely indicated that an Apache helicopter had crashed in international waters in the Strait of Hormuz.
The pilots are fine, yeah.
And
nobody injured. We are going to issue a report tomorrow, but the pilots are fine, yeah.
President Trump subsequently announced in a post on his Truth Social platform that the Iranians were behind the downing of the American helicopter. He wrote, quote, "I have just been informed by our great military that last night the Iranians shot down one of our highly sophisticated Apache helicopters while patrolling over the Strait of Hormuz. There were 2 pilots involved. Both are safe and uninjured. Nevertheless, the United States must, of necessity, respond to this attack." The Ayatollah regime in Iran, seemingly shocked by the American intention to respond to its belligerents, vowed to act out against U.S. targets throughout the region in the event of an attack. Nevertheless, the Iranian attempts to dissuade a response for their belligerence against U.S. assets did not impress President Donald Trump, who had held a phone conversation with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, during the course of which the two leaders coordinated matters related to the Islamic Republic ahead of the American retaliatory strikes against Iran. Subsequently, U.S. Central Command launched 2 separate waves of aerial strikes against military targets in Iran, which, according to CENTCOM, quote, "Iranian air defenses, ground control stations, and surveillance radar sites near the Strait of Hormuz were struck with precision munitions from U.S. aircraft and Navy fighter jets." CENTCOM went on to note that the operation was a proportional response to recent attacks on U.S. forces and international commercial shipping transiting regional waters, and that U.S. forces remain vigilant and postured to defend against unjustified Iranian aggression. Meanwhile, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, or IRGC, launched ballistic missiles and drones towards U.S. military bases in the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, the Kingdom of Bahrain, and Kuwait. No injuries or damage were immediately reported, with the vast majority of the incoming projectiles successfully intercepted. Meanwhile, in Tehran, the Ayatollah regime's foreign ministry spokesman, Ismail Baghei, boastfully proclaimed that the terror regime in Iran wisely utilizes the military option to engage in diplomacy.
We need to examine this properly. Look, diplomacy and the battlefield are not separate from each other. They are part of the same continuum, 2 parallel tools used to safeguard Iran's national interests and national security. Wherever necessary, our armed forces respond to the enemy with strength and power. There is no need for me to say it. What happened last night showed that Iran's armed forces do not hesitate in defending the country. In the same way, in the field of diplomacy, the same principle applies. The pillars of the system, wherever necessary, make use of diplomacy, and wherever required, they also rely on military capability for the defense of the country.
The Ayatollah regime is once again miscalculating the resolve of both the United States and Israel, with President Donald Trump releasing a statement after the barrage of boastful rhetoric by Iranian officials, stating, quote, Iran is all talk and no action. The bully of the Middle East is dead. They have taken too long to negotiate a deal that would have been great for them, and now they will have to pay the price. Interestingly enough, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, who has been sidelined as of late by the RGC, is now trying to win favor by the Ayatollah regime, proclaiming that any American campaign against Iran would not realize Tehran's surrender.
We must get out of this no war, no peace state. War is certainly not in the country's interest. But if they think that by violating our dignity, our territory, and our homeland, we will surrender or back down, then let them only dream about it. This is not something that we will back down from. It is impossible to use air power and bombardment to force a country to surrender. They have not been able to force Gaza, a small strip of land, to surrender to their will after 3 years of bombardment. They will not be able to force our Iran to surrender with their threats, and I will certainly not surrender.
Meanwhile, in Lebanon, the IDF is intensifying its offensive operations against the Iranian proxy Hezbollah, with strikes reported in Hezbollah's stronghold in Beirut, namely the Dahya neighborhood, alongside dozens of additional targeted eliminations throughout southern Lebanon. The uptick in offensive operations comes in the wake of Hezbollah's continued attacks towards civilian communities throughout northern Israel. Meanwhile, Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog visited the Israeli border community of Netuah.
I am here, on the border with Lebanon, in the community of Netuah and the entire area. This region is unceasingly attacked, and its residents are showcasing extraordinary resilience. The people here are amazing, but they deserve that Israel will grant them the highest national priority in all sectors to enable full and complete lives as we are fighting and managing an entire campaign that relates to the entire region. The Iranians are trying to turn this region into a part of their campaign's anchors. We cannot allow this. However, the most important thing, we cannot allow them to harm our northern residents. Our northern residents must receive the highest priority in all sectors, especially in matters related to industry, labor, tourism, and agriculture, to enable everyone to continue to live here and bring up many generations of proud Israeli citizens on the border, until, with God's help, we realize peace.
President Herzog continued by speaking directly to his Lebanese counterpart, President Joseph Aoun, who recently said in an interview to CNN that Iran and its proxy Hezbollah should stop their sinister activities versus Lebanon and essentially leave the country alone.
I say to the residents of Lebanon, and I say also to the President of Lebanon, I have seen your interview on CNN. I would like to propose, there is no greatest dream for Israelis to take their cars for a visit in Beirut. It is up to you. You need to kick out Hezbollah from within you, and to kick out Iran from your midst. Do not be afraid to say and follow through. The rest can quickly follow, since Israel wants peace, peace with Lebanon, and it does not have any claims in Lebanon.
It is important to know that while Hezbollah continues to launch repeated attacks at Israel's northern communities, residents are showing extraordinary resilience.
We are not afraid of anything, not from Hezbollah, not from Iran, and not from anything at all.
We live in Nahariya. I've actually been living here for 28 years, and there has never been a time when it wasn't dangerous. It's always been like this, and we've gotten used to it. Yesterday, too, things were wrong. There were explosions and loud noises. But we're not afraid. I'm not afraid at all.
Turning to Ankara, where Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has leveled a string of warnings to the state of Israel, saying that he regards Israel's actions in both Syria and Lebanon a threat to Turkey. Erdogan then claimed that Israel was pursuing a greater Israel strategy, which aims to consolidate its control over all of the lands which were promised to the people of Israel by God in the Bible.
Netanyahu ve cinayet şebekesinin
Attacks by Netanyahu and his murder network on Syria and Lebanon have reached a point where they threaten Turkey as much as these two brotherly countries.
tehdit eder bir noktaya
We will not turn a blind eye to any attack against our brothers.
hiçbir saldırıya göz yummak.
Now these people and their triggermen are going around making so-called threats targeting Turkey.
Solda Türkiye'yi hedef alan
There is no need for you to say this.
tehditler savuruyorlar. Hiç
We
bunu
already know your
söylemenize
intention,
gerek yok.
your purpose, and your target very well.
Amacınızı,
We see
hedefinizi
very clearly what you are
zaten çok
pursuing.
iyi biliyoruz. Biz sizin
We are fully aware of what the ultimate goal of the delusion of the promised land is. Turn a blind eye to any, God willing, we will never allow this. And their triggermen are going. Israel must be stopped.
İsrail
This is the duty of humanity and of the front of humanity.
insanlık
The
cephesinin
repetition of history must not be allowed.
tekerrürüne izin verilmemelidir.
The Turkish head of state, who addressed his Islamist AKP faction, continued by warning EU member states, Cyprus and Greece, over their close ties with Israel.
Özellikle de Kıbrıs adasında
We see that, especially on the island of Cyprus, there is an attempt to ignite a fire of discord, and we are following the developments very closely.
cüsselerini fazlasıyla aşan
Some small-time entities whose ambitions far exceed their size have boarded Israel's boat of discord, taken on the role of subcontractors for Zionism, and are supposedly chasing a number of immature fantasies in the Eastern Mediterranean.
peşine düşmüşler.
I am saying this very clearly. No one should go looking for an adventure.
Kimse
No one should latch onto the tail of the Zionist massacre network.
eğer Doğu Akdeniz'de
If the rights and law of Turkey and the Turkish Cypriots in the Eastern Mediterranean are targeted, I want it to be known that our response will be very clear and also very harsh.
çok da sert olur.
It is important to know that the Turkish Ministry of Defense conducted a significant naval exercise recently dubbed Deniz Kurdu II, which began on June 4th and included 125 naval vessels, 60 air assets, unmanned maritime vehicles, and some 18,000 personnel of Turkey's naval and air forces, as well as its Coast Guard Command, simulating, among others, amphibious assaults in the Eastern Mediterranean, Aegean, Marmara, and Black Seas. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of our viewers. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Essen wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.